Shouldn't we cut the poor French some slack? Yes, many of them want to ban bikinis at beaches, just like they've already banned headscarves in school and face veils in public. But they're not picking on Muslims, no, they're merely supporting that timeless concept of laïcité, the very strict French secular separation of church and state. Remember, French secularism, laïcité, in the words of French presidents on both right and left, is non-negotiable. But here's some things they don't tell you. First, laïcité isn't some ancient French principle set in stone even by Robespierre. It's a modern concept based on 20th century legislation, the 1905 law on the separation of the churches and state. Second, as many critics have argued, that 1905 law was supposed to be about making the French state and institutions and employees of the state religiously neutral, not wider French society. It doesn't say anything about students in school or women on beaches. What it does say in Article 1 is that freedom of conscience and the free exercise of religion are guaranteed. And the purpose of that law, bear in mind, was to push back against an overmighty and interfering Catholic Church, rather than to reduce the rights or visibility of French Muslims, today one of the country's most marginalized minority communities. In fact, one former French minister has compared laïcité to secular totalitarianism. Top French political scientist Dominique Moisy calls it a new religion, requiring obedience and belief. Even the current French president recently conceded laïcité should not be treated as a state religion against other religions. Third, the 1905 law on secularism does not apply in Alsace-Moselle, the region of France formerly part of Germany, where the French state doesn't just fund the construction of churches, but also approves the appointments of clergy and pays their salaries. What was that about non-negotiable? In fact, across France, religious buildings built before the 1905 law still get state funding. Around 90% of Catholic churches, 50% of Protestant churches, and 10% of synagogues. Bad luck, Muslims, there weren't any mosques in France pre-1905. The French state also subsidizes private religious schools, most of them Catholic, some of them Jewish, hardly any of them Muslim. Oh, and while hijabs are banned in school because, religious neutrality, fish on Fridays, a Christian tradition, isn't, and Christmas holidays are still fine. Go secularism! Finally, if you want any further proof that modern French Islam bashing isn't merely about enforcing laïcité, just listen to the politicians and pundits. Marion Maréchal Le Pen says her far-right National Front party is secular, but also says millions of French Muslims should accept they live on soil that is culturally Christian. And last year, a bunch of leading French politicians and thinkers, including former President Sarkozy, signed a petition against a proposal to turn empty, unused French churches into mosques. Laïcité? What laïcité?